So if you guys don't know, I'm actually a pretty big Total Drama fan. I've been watching it since I was a kid, and it came out around 2007. Well, I guess since episode 7. I have a very typical Total Drama origin story of watching it on live TV and then finding out there's an uncensored version later, and being confused by the censored parts for the longest part of my life. I've seen every season except for Total Drama-Rama, which is more of a spin-off. I've seen The Redonkulous Race. And recently, the entirety of the reboot was leaked. And I got my grubby little paws on it and watched it all. Oh right, spoilers. Duh. This is your spoiler warning. Everything from this point on is going to be spoiler territory. Honestly, seeing the promos for this show, I had very, very low expectations. They really played up the diversity in this, and normally when they do this, it ends up like Velma or High Guardian Spice. So I was expecting a cringe fest in that angle. Normally, when you try to play up diversity for marketing, it doesn't go very well. They had this mess, which I was worried was going to be another one of the Pakatu weird take one trope, and that's your entire character. In the promo, they had things like the kids will be participating in TikToks and taking selfies, and I just thought of that and I'm just like, oh no, don't be another we're with the cool kids kind of show, please. Oh, what we knew about this beforehand had so much potential to completely flop. And especially coming out of All Stars, Pakatu Island, and Total Drama-Rama, I wholeheartedly expected this thing to crush my dreams and my hopes that we would ever have a good Total Drama season ever again. And you know what I think? I am shocked. I'm shocked because it's kind of good. It works. It's surprisingly great. It did not fall for anything that I thought it was going to fall for. I found myself laughing so many times throughout this show. And that's what it's supposed to do. Total Drama is supposed to be funny. I love how these characters aren't just like whatever stereotypes that they are. They all just feel like actual characters, which is something I feel like we haven't seen in a long time. Heck, I found the challenges to be a little simple, but at the same time, I kind of liked it and I found it a little refreshing. But at first, normally, whenever they introduce the challenge, I'm like, oh, that's pretty bland, that's it. And then they find some way to spice it up later. It's not like, oh, we're gonna introduce all this really wacky shit like we did in previous seasons, where these kids should really definitely be dead. Like, these are back to the realistic challenges in Total Drama Island. Stuff that you could probably see yourself doing. Pretty much, like, kids could do these challenges for, like, a birthday party or something like that. Well, okay, not all of them. And I like that. That's refreshing. It doesn't feel like Chris is actively trying to murder these kids. He just wants to see them in pain. The modern challenges with the iPhones and the selfies, like, it's incorporated in a way that makes sense for the show. All the modern aspects make sense in a way that works for the show. They actually got some laughs out of me. The modern elements are actually adapted really, really well. And this is coming from someone who constantly shit talks Gen Z. I am just like a Millie. Gosh, I really relate to Millie. And it still makes sense if this is in the Total Drama canon. I would imagine the show said, all right, Chris, no extreme stunts. You can't try to kill the kids with explosives. And then he's like, adapt, evolve, overcome. I was kind of hoping to see more references to the previous shows, but there's only very slight ones. I found the opening kind of cringe. I kind of really missed the old one. But one of my favorite aspects of the show is that it does diverse in a non-cringe way. And by diverse in a cringe way, I mean, well, Velma. These characters are diverse, and it does a lot of first, like having an openly gay character, but these characters are not defined by those traits. Every character has at least some likable traits. Bowie mentions he's openly gay, but he has much more character beyond that, and is honestly one of the most in-depth characters of the show. Basically, him being gay is pretty much just because of romance, and so he can make RuPaul references. Let's go through all the characters. I kind of wanted Axel to go further, because she was given really little development, and because of that, I kind of just see her as kind of a combination of Eva and Sean. We already had a zombie apocalypse character, but maybe she'll get more development in season 2. Bowie, I love this character. Again, I love how he's not just gay and that's his entire personality. He has a lot of layers. He's devious, he's mischievous, but he also actually cares about people like Emma. He is just such a solid character, and I really, really like that. Take notes, people. This is gay representation gone right. Maybe except for the pearl necklace thing. That was a little much. And Z was probably the funniest character on the show. I saw his elimination coming from a mile away. They did the whole amputee thing so well. It was done in such a stereotypically total drama fashion. Like, everyone thinks his leg gets eaten off, and then it's just, oh, there's my favorite leg. Welcome back, buddy. And the whole making up really wild stories to go along with it. And it just fit into his character just so well. Again, take notes. This is representation done right. And then it's not really ever brought up again unless it's like something to do with like the challenges. Gosh, he's so fucking funny. Oh my god, the amount of weed jokes they make with him. I have never weeded in my entire life and I still think it's funny. But this character is one of the best. Scary Girl, or Lauren, I expected her to be very cringe. I actually laughed at a lot of her moments. Because damn, I knew people that were like this. I kind of used to be like this. Except without all the makeup. There are edgelords like this out there. I fully expected Nichelle to be like the new Heather and Julia to be the new Lindsay, but oh my fudge, I was so wrong, and they really threw me off guard. Especially in like the leaked previews. I really expected that we'd see Nichelle like in the finale, like, oh my gosh. Her meltdown kind of didn't really make sense for me. She was kind of the only one I was really disappointed in. But it did really twist my expectations because I thought she was going to be this season's Heather. It was already spoiled for me that Caleb was going home first, but I bet he's going to maybe turn into like a Justin in the second season, or he might turn into Ezekiel. I think those are the only two fates for this man. At first, I kind of rolled my eyes at Chase and Emma's backstory and everything, but looking at the newer demographic, I guess it kind of does make sense. Honestly, it's a pretty good lesson to teach people. Dangerous pranks have dangerous consequences, but then they had Emma get back with him in the end. But I thought the whole, oh, I thought you finally apologized thing was kind of interesting. I kind of just wish that they would have stayed apart. But they'll probably be back to that in season 2 once they find out the whole pizza thing was a lie. But goodness, Chase is just such a terrible person. But I have a feeling this character is going to go somewhere in season 2. I really liked Damien. I liked seeing his development, and I liked seeing how knowledgeable he was. It was really interesting to see someone who had no idea what he was getting himself into on the show. And then the moment he decides, hey, I want to stay on here, he gets voted off. And I kind of saw that coming. That was a little bit predictable. I kind of wanted to see him grow a bit more and make it a little bit longer, but I think he has a lot more potential for season 2. Honestly, probably a possible winner for season 2. I think they did pretty well with Emma too. They gave her more outside of just being the girlfriend of this really awful person. Raj and Wayne, oh, they were funny. Kind of disappointing that they got voted off because they got injured when there were several worse injuries throughout this entire series. And the whole Wayne trying to be supportive of Raj and just waiting for him to finally come out to him. It's so wholesome. I really like that. There were so many moments between these two that just made me go, oh my gosh, that's so wholesome. Also, the Canadian stereotypes, I was just laughing my ass off with the Canadian accents and everything. But they were more than just stereotypes. They still felt like actual characters, and I love it. Ripper went a little bit cringe, but then I got into later episodes, and we started to see more of his character. Like his thing when working with Millie. I kind of liked that. I kind of liked seeing that. But there were parts where he was kind of obnoxious. He's kind of a mix of Duncan and Owen, but Duncan from All Stars. Now, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, Chris and Chef's voices. I miss Chris and Chef's original voices, but I kind of understand why they had to change. I mean, it's been over a decade, so but it did feel a little bit off. But the lines that were written kind of pulled you back in to have you remember that these are kind of still the same characters. But honestly, maybe for Chris it kind of works. I would imagine he just screamed so much and he just lost his voice. I guess it kind of works. I miss the old voices, but I like the new chef at the very least. It's kind of like the same Chris, but just watered down. He's still kind of trying to kill the kids, which is something I kind of found annoying because in the beginning he was like, okay, killing kids is gonna get us sued. But now they kind of have Chef to really, really balance him out. Now it's just, oh, he's trying to hurt them, which is tolerable. Chris is still crazy, but it's been 15 years. He's mellowed out, I guess. Gosh, I relate so much to Millie. Like, I feel like for a lot of my high school years, I was like that. Just judging other characters because I was lonely and kind of a loser and had no friends. And sometimes I still find myself doing that. I was kind of hoping to see Millie make one more ultimate sacrifice at the end and like throw Priya to the finish line so she could get there before her or something like that. And that would be how she would be forgiven. It's more of a show, don't tell. But I like these two friendship. Speaking of which, Priya, I love Priya. Probably best girl of the season. She's just so adorable. I really like the concept of somebody's parents being so obsessed with total drama because it's been over a decade. And with hardcore fans like Sierra existing, it definitely makes sense. It also makes sense for replacement too. But it was pretty predictable, unfortunately. I thought the whole tech kind of thing was going to be kind of a drag and kind of cringe, but MK really subverted my expectations here. And to have the stuff she downloaded come back later. Also, she had some really relatable lines. It was just pretty well written, but I can't wait to see more of her. I kind of like how Julia evolved, but there is a point where some of the things she did were a little cringe level worthy of mean, but I really like how she came back as Bowie's partner in the finale and just said, F you, I am not gonna do anything for you. That was so funny. I originally thought she was gonna be like a Lindsay to like Nichelle, but it really subverted my expectations, in a good way though. I thought I was going to hate the Instagram influencer characters, but I kind of like her. Doesn't really make sense how she got canceled over screaming at a dinosaur though. I think on social media people would have been more interested in, oh my gosh, it's a dinosaur, and holy shit, how are you still alive? But the freedom from veganism and yoga thing, that was so funny. But the villains in here aren't like villains that you're like, oh my gosh, I want to see this person suffer. I want to see this person fall. They still have some very remarkable qualities. Like, Julia ate a whole ass tapeworm and actually really tried super hard in all of these challenges. You couldn't help but respect her. Bowie, who's more of an anti-hero and not specifically a villain, I really like that. I love how gray they made everything. And it's not like heroes versus villains. Some eliminations were really predictable. Quite a few of them I saw coming from miles away, but then there were some that I was on the edge of my seat for. Maybe only a couple. It was kind of a little predictable who was gonna win, but the people accompanying that winner to the final was a little bit surprising. Like, I thought Bowie was gonna be maybe like 5th or 3rd. There were so many good storylines, and they all ended up pretty interestingly. But one thing I have to say to close this review, how in the hell are they going to adapt this to countries like the United States? There are too many dirty Canadian jokes. This is going to be interesting. And I'm so ready for Bowie to break all of those censors. To the point where they're like, oh no, we give up, ah crap. They're probably just going to cut away from the kiss or something. But I hope in season 2 that we get more characters in general, because I feel like just sticking with the same staff is going to be a little bit boring. But I definitely want some of these characters to return. But until then, keep on studying.